This story starts with a 911 call that should never have been made and ends with a reality check no one saw coming. Before we jump in, tell me which country you're watching from. And if you like HOA chaos and unbelievable neighborhood drama, do like, subscribe for more stories, and hit that hype button because this one escalates fast. The neighborhood looked calm on the surface, the kind of place where lawns were trimmed to exact lengths and driveways stayed spotless year-round. The HOA marketed it as peaceful, orderly, and prestigious. But anyone who lived there long enough knew the calm depended on staying invisible to one specific person. The HOA's most aggressive enforcer, known to everyone as Karen, treated the community like her personal domain. She had no official title beyond a rotating committee role, but she acted like the final authority on everything. Parking, visitors, trash bins, window shades, holiday decorations, nothing escaped her attention. She kept detailed notes on residents, memorized schedules, and walked the streets as if she were conducting inspections for a government agency. People avoided crossing her path whenever possible. My wife and I moved into the neighborhood quietly. We liked our privacy, kept our home well-maintained, and followed the rules without issue. We didn't attend every HOA gathering or socialize much beyond polite greetings. That alone seemed to put us on Karen's radar. She didn't trust people who didn't seek her approval. The tension started with small things. She questioned how long our guests stayed. She stared too long at our driveway when my wife parked after work. She made comments to neighbors suggesting our household didn't fit the usual pattern. Nothing concrete, just enough to plant suspicion. We ignored it, assuming she would move on to someone else. She didn't. One afternoon, my wife arrived home later than usual after a long day. Karen happened to be walking by and stopped to watch her park. Something about that moment triggered her. Maybe it was frustration, maybe it was boredom, or maybe it was the power she believed she had. Whatever it was, it pushed her past the line. Karen decided my wife did not belong there. She convinced herself that my wife was an unauthorized occupant, a guest overstaying her welcome, or worse, someone illegally living in the house. None of it was true. My wife was a co-owner of the property, legally documented, fully entitled to be there. But Karen didn't care about facts. She cared about control. Instead of contacting the HOA board or reviewing records, she did something far more reckless. She called 911. She reported that a woman was inside a home without permission and needed to be removed immediately. She framed it as a safety concern, implying trespassing and refusal to leave. She spoke with confidence, the kind that comes from believing authority bends to entitlement. Within minutes, patrol vehicles arrived. My wife was inside the house, unaware of the call that had been made against her. When the officers approached the door, the situation was calm, but tense. They followed protocol, checking details, reviewing identification, and confirming ownership. What Karen expected to be a dramatic eviction unraveled almost instantly. What she didn't know was that my wife wasn't just any homeowner. She ran the state police force. Not in a symbolic way, not in an honorary role. She held real authority, real responsibility, and decades of experience. She knew the system inside and out, from dispatch procedures to misuse of emergency services. The officers recognized her immediately, not because she announced it, but because her reputation preceded her. The mood shifted. The officers completed their checks, confirmed the call was false, and documented everything. Karen, who had been watching from a distance with visible satisfaction, suddenly looked uncertain. The power dynamic she imagined collapsed under the weight of reality. The officers didn't arrest her that day, but the incident didn't end there. A false 911 call is never just a misunderstanding. It's a serious misuse of emergency resources, especially when made to harass someone in their own home. The report went up the chain. An internal review flagged the call almost immediately due to the high-profile nature of the homeowner involved. The recording of Karen's call was reviewed. Her claims were compared to property records. The conclusion was unavoidable. The call had no legal basis. Karen received an official warning from law enforcement. She was informed that any further misuse of emergency services could result in charges. The HOA board was notified as well, and suddenly they couldn't ignore her behavior anymore. That's when the neighborhood started talking. Residents who had stayed quiet for years felt a sense of relief. If Karen could be challenged, maybe the rest of them weren't powerless after all. Stories surfaced about her calling the authorities over petty disputes, exaggerating situations, and intimidating homeowners with the threat of enforcement. Many had assumed that's just how things worked. The HOA board called an emergency meeting. They reviewed the incident carefully. The false report, the embarrassment it brought to the community, the legal exposure they now faced. They couldn't pretend it was a misunderstanding. Karen had crossed a line that put everyone at risk. The board voted to remove her from any enforcement-related role immediately. Her access to HOA records was revoked. Her authority to issue notices was stripped. She was formally instructed to cease all monitoring of residents. Karen didn't take it well. She retreated from public view, avoiding neighbors she once confronted daily. The clipboard disappeared, the constant patrols stopped. The street felt different without her presence looming over every interaction. The HOA issued a written apology to my wife and me. They acknowledged the harm caused and promised policy changes to prevent individual members from acting independently. It was a quiet admission of failure, but it mattered. Life returned to normal in the weeks that followed. My wife continued her work, balancing leadership with the same calm professionalism she brought home every night. The neighborhood grew lighter. People waved again. Conversations lasted longer. Kids played outside without parents worrying about complaints. Karen remained in her house, a shadow of the authority she once pretended to wield. The irony wasn't lost on anyone. She tried to weaponize the police to remove a woman from her own home, only to discover she had targeted the one person who understood the system better than she ever could. The lesson spread quickly through the community. Rules matter, authority matters, and abusing either has consequences. In the end, the house stayed peaceful. The HOA became quieter, more cautious, and Karen learned the hard way that pretending to have power is no match for someone who actually does. If you enjoyed this story, do like, subscribe for more stories, and hit that hype button so this video keeps climbing. And don't forget to tell me which country you're watching from. More HOA stories are coming.